You are now in the realm of enlightenment and transformation.
Welcome to Chief Speaks.
All music performed and produced by Yuya.
Enlightenment comes from allowing yourself to journey through the dark shadow of death, the primordial abyss of wisdom's waters. For it is the treasures and mysteries that lie waiting in the dark that transform us and propel us to a new enlightened state. One should never aspire to live in the light nor the dark, but should journey between the two in order to evolve the overall reality into a self-actualized creation. Knowledge is your light, as wisdom is your darkness. The bold interplay of the two in your life leads you to an enlightened understanding of yourself and the universe you've created. Male is your enlightenment, female is your transformation, child is your evolution. Woman, accept the light into your darkness, so it may enlighten you. Man, go bring your light boldly into the darkness, so that it may transform you. Enlightenment and transformation.
I love you so much because you just don't know what you've just done for me. Thank you so much.
Wow. Okay. This is like the best call I've had in ages on BTR.
So this show was meant for me to be able to hear today, and I'm so thankful.
That's his home.
Therefore, now a new pathway has now been cut in order to get to the Almighty, where there may not have been one. So the communication with them, if they have enough power and strength to talk to us, the communication will be very clear.
That's one of the reasons I don't get into the current events thing too much, because it starts to become a perpetual alarm clock that we just keep hitting snooze on. I speak to the ascended masters, quote unquote. I talk about spiritual stuff, but I also speak about some very practical, we can do today things.
Be as natural as you can be with your spiritual. You can't always go by your feelings, because your feelings are corrupted. Your feelings are just as corrupted as everything else, your chakras and everything else. You got to know what's beyond you, and that's why we have elders. We can't do everything. You can't get everything out of books or weekend certification. You can have the most powerful, ancient, oldest, most, as far as you know, truthful tradition in your hands, and if you still have a dirty spirit, you're not going to get anything out of it. You're not going to learn anything. You're not actually going to grow. I try to teach in a way where I make myself obsolete. That's always been my goal, to make myself obsolete.
I really wanted to, kind of big you up. I think you're awesome.
There's a lot of elders out here right now that want to know what's going on. They're not getting on Twitter and stuff like that, but they want to be up on the new stuff. Sit down and have some conversations with them. It's not always about hearing their story. It's also about being news reporters for them and letting them know, like, yeah, this is what's happening right now. They may tell you something about what happened in Charleston that you couldn't even. Your spirituality has to create sane spiritual family. Okay, and that family exists first inside of you. You have to express the different expressions of that rainbow coalition of spirits inside of you first. Okay, don't let communities hijack that rainbow. Because the problem is, when we come into the conscious community, the dudes are doing the same thing that the women are doing.
I just want to say that I really enjoy your show every Sunday, and my friend and I call it going to church. When we call him, we're like, you going to church? And I'm like, where have y'all been at?
God cannot go against its own truth. So anytime you have an inkling that God is going against its own truth, then God is no longer behaving as God, so therefore the spiritual community doesn't recognize God. You dig where I'm coming from? Or can we have a new thought? Can we step outside of the books for a second and have a new conversation about hair weaves and wigs? Can we have a new conversation about homosexuality? Can we have a new conversation about vegan eating? What are we doing? It's a good day for exorcism.
347-945-7680. Call in and let's build.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to Chief Speaks on Enlightenment and Transformation. And I won't go through all the various media outlets that we utilize in order to broadcast, because there are so many at this point and they're growing. But I will just say that however you've gotten here, whether it be through referral, whether it be through subscription on our YouTube channel, Enlightenment and Transformation TV, I just want to welcome you, and I want to thank you for coming in, and thank you for being
a part of this experience that we call enlightenment and transformation. And this component of that experience is called Chief Speaks. My name is Chief Yuya. One of my names is Chief Yuya. And again, I welcome you to this space. For those of you who have been following, we've been covering a series since January of this year. Various series, but this month, which is the month of May, we've been dealing with the idea of living an Anu life. Living an Anu life. And living an Anu life becomes significant when you have a movement by the name of Anu Nation. Our spiritual component is the Anu Life Global Ministries. And of course, our learning component, which most of you have come in through, is the Sadulu House Spiritual Center, which of course is our school where we learn things, right? We learn to empower ourselves in order to return back to our original space and our original positioning. Some of you have maybe even come here through OrishaReligion.com. However you've gotten here, just get here. It's fine, and I welcome you all. None is greater than the other, But like I said, in this month, we've been dealing with the concept of living an Anu life. And, just kind of going over just some of the periphery information or the periphery perspectives of being an Anu, living Anu. And, I invite you to that journey, because it is a journey of exploration. It's definitely a journey of self-actualization, and it's a journey of internal discovery. And in all actuality, that is what you and I have been placed here to do, is to discover ourselves, and that's what I kind of wanted to speak on in this particular segment a bit more, to kind of highlight and clarify what it is that we practice at Anu and why we practice it. Why we do what we do as a learning family and as a spiritual community. Not an organization at all, but certainly a movement. In fact, the Anu perspective is one that beckons all members to disorganize and then move into a space of reorganization, but definitely not to form any organization. Organizations are so easy to decentralize, so easy to infiltrate, and in fact, organizations bring us right back to the same amorphous organism that we fell down from when we came into our birth into this physical reality. And one of the things I wanted to speak on is the value of chaos. A lot of times with the Anu teachings, when I'm speaking, I'm often speaking about the value of the soul, certainly, and the trap and caging of duality, of the light and dark, of the male and the female, of the push and the pull, of the off and the on. And of course, as I said in many other segments, the further you get away from your divinity, the more profound and pronounced your duality becomes. So the further away we get, the more you'll see war and conflict amongst the sexes. The further you'll see a disconnect between the left and right hemispheres of your own brain. The further you'll see a disconnect between the different components that make up yourself, your soul, your mind, your body, your aura, your etheric body, your emotional body, your higher consciousness, all of these different things that make up the community of who and what you are. And the distance between those particular components and even the contrast becomes more apparent the further we go away from our source, our divine source. But that's not necessarily a bad thing. That dispersion, which relates itself to just like the dispersion from solids to liquids to gases. The dispersion is necessary and vital, and really a part of the exploration that's inherent in all humanity. As divine beings, we all have an inherent desire and an inherent imperative to learn. All of us, even those of us who think we don't. You see with children, one of the greatest fears sometimes that we have in rearing them is their incessant sense of curiosity. Their desire to stick their fingers where they don't belong and put their hands on top of things where they ought not be, or to wander off into places that we warn them not to wander off into. The curiosity of even saying no to something that we tell them to do and waiting to see what the outcome will be. Inherently, we all have a very curious nature, and that's because inherently we all have a nature that beckons us to learn, that beckons us towards planetary scholarship. And ultimately, that was the reason and purpose for coming here, was to learn. This is a classroom. All travel and all exploration inherently is compelled upon us for the reasons of learning. We want to travel, we want to explore, and we usually say, because I want to learn new things. So what happens is that when there's that voyage into a space of exploration and into a space of discovery, one of the things that must happen, and you see this to give it some body, of relevancy for those of you listening who want something to connect to. Think of the Osirian tale, and consider how the Osirian tale is used in every major movie plot that you could ever dissect or look at. You have someone who is comfortable, typically in some heavenly type of environment where they hover and they drift flaccidly over the realities of life. And something happens that disrupts their peace or disrupts their calm. And once that calm is disrupted, they're forced to take themselves on a journey. And through this journey, they learn things about themselves, they learn things about the environment that they live in, and they also learn to utilize tools that they've acquired through their fall. So for instance, if we were to look at the Wizard of Oz, or we could look at the Wiz, whichever one you're most comfortable with, you find that with Dorothy, as she went on her journey to retrieve certain things and went through her certain tasks, she acquired certain skills. She even acquired certain comrades along the road, right? The yellow brick road. Yellow brick, of course, it represents gold, which represents transformation. It's the alchemy. So when she's walking the road of transformation, there are certain comrades, which of course are aspects of herself, that she acquires along the path. And what those comrades do is they show their usefulness in certain moments when their exact and precise skills are needed. Okay? So as we travel and we go through life, we pick up certain tools and we use those tools in order to get back home. It's a very interesting journey in that sense. So in order for that to happen, this is the key component, which creates the reality where we could actually stretch out and explore the different tools that we have acquired. In order for that to happen, we first must be dislodged from order and thrust into chaos. So chaos becomes the great unifier. Chaos serves as a great value and interceptor of our boredom, because it forces us into a place of discomfort. And that discomforting or that dislodging from our comfortable perch is what forces us on a journey of exploration, sometimes self-exploration, sometimes external exploration. Ultimately, even though you have the prefix X within exploring and explore, it's all internal, ultimately. So the dislodging that chaos brings forces us to now join the world. So, but you find something very interesting in that concept. Without chaos, a lot of times we become obsessed and stuck in the ideas of our individualism. Because without the chaos and without the dislodging, we grow tighter and dustier and more deeply invested in ideas of ourselves and ideals of our own ego, which is one of the great tragedies of people, or one of the great tragedies of man. There was a time in our literature, in our spiritual literature, in our spiritual pantheons, where when we studied the cosmos, or we studied our spiritual surroundings, we studied them in relationships to ourselves, and we strove to conform ourselves, conform our actions, conform our rituals, conform our culture, conform our language even, to the very attributes and characteristics that we witness within the cosmos. So man had a desire to become that which it saw to be greater than itself, and that which it saw to be the all-encompassing cradle of itself, or himself, or herself. And through the ages, as we've fallen deeper into history, we've fallen deeper into the illusion of our own personalities, now we do the exact reverse. We seek for the cosmos and the deities and the divine to conform itself into the image of us. So as we fall further away from our source, we now seek to make God in our own image, as opposed to our ancient texts which told us that God made us in its image. So there is a reversal of sorts that happens the more we ingrain ourselves into what we consider to be order. When we came from a heavenly space, we came from order to disorder back into order. Now, that order that we experience now is the wrapping and the clothing of our spiritual or our soul-like bodies within a flesh encasement. And that creates an order. It's not that our souls are diminished. It's not that our spirits are diminished, or even if they are excavated or whisked away, they're still within us, but they find themselves in a smaller form, encased within an embodiment of a personality and an embodiment of an emotional body. Okay? And the further we invest in this emotional body and this embodiment of this physical encasement, the further we get away from the chaos of our own soul or abysmal, noon-like reality or existence. That great chaos that existed that all creation was birthed out of. We lose that. We move further and further away from it. So the idea of chaos being of great value, we speak about so rarely, if ever. But chaos is the great unifier. Because without chaos, we have order. And in order to have order, we must have separatism and we must have individuality. Okay, our great organizer of order in our Yoruba pantheon is Eshu. Some of you may call him Elegba. Some of you may call him Elegua. But either way, Eshu is the archetype that deals with our segregation. It's when we have a chaotic situation in front of us and we can't make a decision. It's Eshu who brings us to the crossroads and says you're either going to go left or you're going to go right. Now the issue here though is at that moment of going left and right, we lose the full potentiality of what we could have gone or what we could have been. Maybe there was something beyond left and right. Maybe there was something beyond red or black. Maybe there was something beyond up or down. Only the soul knows, or as we say in Fanti, Obiniyim, meaning only God knows, So in this instance, we start to understand that chaos, as we are experiencing now in the Kali Yuga era, those of you who are familiar with the Devi Kali, in this Kali Yuga era, we see that our ignorance or even our chaotic nature brings great creativity, but also serves to unify us. Because once we dislodge ourselves from our individual personalities and our individual egoic investments, and we fall into the great pool of chaos, in fact, we become one. We become unified all over again, and we're able to create again because of the joint venture of chaos, or the collective venture of chaos. Now, again, sometimes our understanding of certain things leads us to a place where it's hard for us to understand the value in these different functions of the universe, because of the level that we humanize the archetypes and the streams of cognition who hold court over these different functions. So for instance, if we're dead set on agreeing and believing that chaos is a product of the devil, and the devil brings chaos, and because of that now, because we don't want to be like the devil and we want to be away from the devil, then we should stay away from anything that is chaotic. And of course, many of us are afraid of chaos because the joining of a chaotic situation means that now there must be a denial of self. And when there's a denial of self, there's an immediate death of self. And of course, so many are afraid of death. Now, the truth is, the devil and Satan are two different entities, but so many people relate the devil to Satan. And if one were to do that, the first thing we have to understand is that Satan actually brings more order than he does chaos. Because Satan is also the segregator. Satan is a promoter of ego. Satan is a promoter of the importance of self, and will offer you things that are related to becoming important, self-importance within a human or worldly context, which of course is temporary. But this itself must happen in a state of order. Okay, so chaos again is highly valuable in this particular journey that we have. But one of the first things that we have to do is remove our feelings and our emotions out of our understandings of what these forces and these entities are. That's one of the first things that we need to do. So for instance, when we think about the long-standing power of what we consider to be light being order, and darkness being chaos, right? Oftentimes in our spiritual understandings, we force too much light upon one another. And when you're forcing light upon one another, you're in fact not only forcing order upon one another, but you're forcing the reality of what you would call a God upon one another. Okay? And that's not a good thing. Light and darkness become valuable in our exploration outside of our hovering over the truth of the world. When it's time for us to explore the truth, we find that in time, as we grow and we become more spiritually mature, more spiritually advanced, that we'll have a great love for the truth of the world, more so than we have of the imaginings of the world. Truth becomes more exciting. Truth becomes more fun. And this is a product of that exploration. So when we look at the interplay between these various energies, infusing too much of our humanity and our own humanistic preference into them causes us to get confused. For instance, when we look at the solstice periods, and then we relate those solstice periods to different spiritual or scriptural happenings and events that we read about. For instance, the overcoming of light with darkness. Sometimes we don't realize that we are neither the light nor the dark. Light is the makeup and the raiment of what many consider to be God. Okay, or the gods even. These are light creatures, these are light bodies, and they're formed out of reflective light. Reflective light is not the same thing as source light. Just like when we look at the moon is reflective, but it's not the source. It's not the sun. And in fact, even the sun is only partially of its own accord lighting up the solar system. The sun also reflects light from another source. Okay, so a percentage of the sun, of what a sun has, is direct. It's self-emanating, it's self-regenerative, and another percentage of it comes from somewhere else. Whereas when we look at the moon, it is a completely reflective light source. Now, it's no coincidence that in our astrological studies that we understand that the moon, in fact, represents imagination. So as we're moving and transversing through the world, we take on different attributes of the archetypes that govern this reality, such as the moon, such as the sun, such as the planets like Saturn and Uranus, and all of these different entities, which they really are. We may look at them as just planets, but they're entities. And each one of these entities imbues us with certain qualities. But those same qualities become a trap when we don't realize when it's time to let them go. So you find this in any type of movie, or like I was speaking about the Osirian myth, or if you look at even the idea of, when we read this in the Corpus Hermeticus, okay, which is again the book of Tahuti. That's what it actually was, the book of Tahuti, which we know in our Yoruba is Orunmila. Okay, in your Bible, Tahuti would be Moses. Okay, but that in the Corpus Hermetica, we learn about the 7 layers of heaven. We learn about the 7 layers of earth. And when we were born, we read about different births: the first birth, the second birth, and we find that when we are falling from our original creator, we have a source higher creator, and from this greater collective body, this greater collective body creates individuals. And the individual is not born at the moment of creation, as there is a difference between being born and being created. But at the moment of creation, the individual begins its descent, and its descent through the 7 layers of consciousness. And those 7 layers of consciousness are represented by different planetary bodies, right? So for instance, one of the early layers that individual fall through is governed by the planet Saturn. And through Saturn, it learns its pragmatic sense. It learns the individual. It takes on the garments, because each layer, what it does, because what's actually falling is a soul. Okay, so what each layer does is it wraps that soul up in its own cloak. It's like we read about Joseph and his coat of many colors. Those coat of many colors represents the chakras, but it also represents the various layers and gifts and tools that we receive when our soul descends into a physical reality. So each body, or each heaven, and each earth that we fall to imparts us with gifts. Now, the advantage of those gifts are what we need in order to function and acclimate ourselves to, again, a physical reality, or a three-dimensional reality. But they come with another side to them. Remember, there's always duality. There's a heaven and there's a hell. So you may take on the tools of one place of reality, of the world of Saturn, or you may take on the tools of Anu, or what we also call Uranus. We may take on those tools, but at the same time, whenever we take on the tools of those different realities, we become cloaked in the raiment of those realities. And the further your soul gets cloaked into the raiment of those realities, the harder it is for you to dig it out later when needed. So the soul becomes diminished, and the tools that you acquired become larger than what they actually are being used by. So when we start to fall back into our consciousness, or rise back into our consciousness, once we hit our physical reality after our first birth, because we have the birth into the world, and then we have our birth back into our consciousness. So there are 2 borns. That's what we talk about, being born again, right? So being born again means that now that I have all these tools, I use these tools to not just acclimate myself to the planet, but to master the reality and the mentality of the planet. So that way I can rise back up through each level. Now you find this in so much of our mentality. So much of our mythology, even our movies. For instance, you had Hercules, the 12 feats of Hercules. Again, the same thing, being a deified figure, but walking through the planet and walking on the earth and using his various tools in order to accomplish certain feats, so that he could reclaim in his mind his honor and remove the guilt that he had from the act that he was tricked into believing that he did. You also have the seven journeys of Sinbad. Sinbad the Sailor is actually a very deep book series. If any of you ever want to, or even if you have children, I don't know if you have children who like bedtime stories or anything like that. I don't know if people still do that. but certainly reading Sinbad the Sailor's Tales are worth it to your children. They did a masterful job in cloaking the mythology. But those 7 tasks, or those 7 journeys of Sinbad the Sailor, who's just another form of Samson, Sinbad, those 7 tasks were actually tasks that allowed him to redeem himself back up to his heavenly place. Because those tasks now utilize the different codes that he learned coming down through those various realms. So if you can picture it like this, you have a soul that descends from that higher collective consciousness. Many of us call it God. So that soul descends from that higher collective consciousness. And as it falls down through different worlds, 7 worlds in fact. And as it falls through those 7 worlds, it's gifted with the overarching collective intelligence of each world. Each world is archetypical in that it stands for something. And the soul is wrapped and clothed in each one of them. So as the soul falls, just to give you an image, it may fall through Saturn. Saturn will give it prudence. Okay, then it falls a little lower, and then each planet will give it something else. Each planet will get, and you notice that the raiment gets bigger and bigger. It's not that the soul gets smaller. The soul is the same exact size, but the raiment, the clothing, the haberdashery, which is also, as I taught you before, is habits. The habits become bigger because now you have more tools. And then at the bottom, it's birthed through his mother. Okay, it comes through the womb of the woman. And now once it comes through the womb of the woman, what is the first thing that we're looking for? We're not looking for the soul of the child. We're looking for the talents of the child. What is it good at? What can it do? We want to see how well it can acclimate to the planet. So those garments become even bigger that have encased the soul. And then there comes a moment when, through chaos, the peace that those garments have given, or really the tranquility that those garments have given, becomes dislodged. And the individual becomes uncomfortable for whatever reason. They become uncomfortable. And then once they become uncomfortable, they have to go on a journey. And that journey will now force them to go back up, which we call the chakra ladder. That's why we always speak about the root chakra going to the crown. Well, when you fell into your 3rd dimension of reality, you fell from above the crown. You came down into the crown, then you fell into the brow, then you fell into the throat, then you fell into the heart, then you fell into the solar, then you fell into the sacral, and then you fell into the root. Okay, so there was a falling. What goes down must come back up. We'll look at it like that. So now once you fell down through those different chakra houses, you also were imbued with the gifts of those chakra houses, which often we consider to be governed by different spiritual archetypes. Okay, but now redeeming yourself back up requires you to use the same exact tools that you learned from each house in order to get back through each point in your reality. Okay, so you'll find that in any of these ancient tales that you read, that there's always some type of task or feat that is put in front of our hero, and they have to utilize something that they've learned previously in order to accomplish the task. There's always some form of agency of protocol that's in place where they're not allowed to just defeat the task any way they want, but they have to do it a certain way. And that certain way and that principle that they must maintain will always represent the archetypical mind or the archetypical suggestion of that particular realm. So when they fall, let's say through the solar chakra, and they go back up through the solar chakra and they're faced with a situation in their life or on their journey, they're faced with a situation in their journey, it's going to require them to use the gifts that they learned from the solar chakra, but at the same time, not violate the protocols associated with the solar chakra, which we know the solar chakra deals with rooting and sitting within your personal power, which allows you to project your identity out into the world. So they may be forced with a situation where they have to project their own personal power without stealing or taking power from another individual. you see. And then they'll go through each one. And you find, again, these 7 feats are so common. Even in music, you have 7 notes, but you find that those 7 feats are so common in so many different mythologies that we may read. Even the fabricated ones, when we read about Dante's Inferno. And, Inferno is just, in Italian, that's hell. But you read about Dante's Inferno and the first realm that he came to, which was level 1, because it contained 7 layers. It was 6 layers in the gate. You read about the 7 steps in the Temple of Solomon. And the 7 steps there were 6 steps, and the 7th one was the throne. Okay, so that platform that the throne sat on counted as the 7th step, which of course, the crown chakra is the throne. Because that's when you're dealing with self-rulership and self-mastery. So often, to get back on the throne, typically there's a story where you fell down those 7 steps. You fell down the 7 steps, and with each plateau, you got something, and now you have to climb back up on your own merit, and through that exploration, is where you grow, is where you develop. So often we have to get outside of this idea, which has been handed to us through Christianity and Catholicism, that man was involuntarily expelled from paradise, by some greater overarching intelligence that said, because of what you've done, you can no longer be here. A lot of times we don't look at it that man chose to leave paradise in order to learn. Because again, the truth was more exciting than his imagination. I really want to touch the world. I don't want to hover over the world loosely, like a spirit, like a ghost, but I actually want to touch it. So therefore I must fall to the dust. And on my way down, I'll be given tools, but those tools will make it harder for me to find myself, to the point that when I start to fight my way back up, I'm going to leave each tool where they are as I fight my way back home, to eventually I'll be stripped back down to nothing, and I can join the greater collectiveness of what we call the great one, or the oneness, you see. So there's a wonderful value to not only chaos, but there's a wonderful value to the exploration that chaos provides us. There's also a wonderful value to seeing the journey of the soul, and seeing how the soul is that's the star of the show. With Our New Life and Our New Thought, I speak heavily about the soul, and it's not because it sounds flowery or it sounds pretty, because that's the ultimate goal and mission of everything we're doing, is to redeem the soul. Even when you look at, for instance, the Christmas season, right? During the Christmas season, many people, what they do, or the winter solstice, what they enjoy doing is getting Christmas trees, and they put the lights on them, and the candy canes, and they put different things on them to decorate them and to show their Christmas spirit. And of course, there's more to it than that. This is an ancient ritual, and what many have not realized, because of, again, the emotional and the humanizing, the emotion and the humanizing that's been invested in ancient spiritual practices, many have not realized that the tree represents the soul. It's the Kabbalistic tree of life, and that Kabbalistic tree of life represents the journey of the soul. From Ein Sof, and coming back down from Kether, which is the crown again, and coming all the way down to Malkuth, and then back up again to Kether again, and back into Ein, and Ein Sof, and Ein Sof So the reason why that tree is utilized is because it's again that same battle between light and darkness, or what some of us may see as a battle between the summer and the winter, or the spring and the winter. And we say, okay, well, during the winter time, what the winter represents, and you have the 12 months again, 12 months again representing the 12 stages of intelligence, of ignorance to intelligence, okay? The 12 is an ancient concept, and it's one of the reasons why 12 is the number of completion, the deity's number of completion. Many people think it's the number 7, but it's not. 7 is the number of tribulation, of the cage, going through those different worlds, breaking out of those different worlds. 12 is the number of completion. So, and again, that's why you have the 12 feats of Hercules, and the 12 is prominent in many different cultures. 12 signs of the zodiac, going through them, and then creates a complete person. But what we understand is that in our ancient texts, we knew that the winter was synonymous with death. So again, so interesting that would be the New Year's. I know I always go back to that, but that January just it never jived. So we have that winter season, and what was considered during that season was that the world would die. Because you got to understand that so much of our mythology that we may study, and this is where we get into upgrading the spiritual tools and the spiritual understandings, is that much of our mythology that we study was developed by farmers. Farmers are brilliant people. They absolutely are. And they utilize their relationship with the earth and their relationship with the different seasons, which of course was their relationship to their survival, their relationship with food. They correlated that to astronomical and divine events. So for them, the summer was the season of death because they weren't able to grow or harvest during that season. Even the concept of tithing. Many people talk about Abrahamic tithing, which was actually never a commandment. People don't realize it was something that Abraham did. But if you run in a church and you want to get that 10, you're definitely going to say, you got to give me the 10. But what that actually originally represented, that again comes from agriculture. It wasn't a spiritual thing. And what they were saying was that take 10% of your crops and replant them back into the land, because the land represented the deity. The land represented God. In ancient Kemet, we call that land Ta-Meri, where you get the name Mary from. So in Mary, again, is another form of more. All right, so that land was our actual deity, and we would reinvest 10% of our first fruits back into the land so that way we could grow for another season. We could increase our crops. That was the original form of tithing, But getting back to the green tree, or what we use as pine tree, it represents the soul in that in a time of death, during those winter months, it stays green. In a time of life, during the summer and the spring months, it stays green. So it stays untouched throughout the living and the dead seasons. So we began to represent that pine tree or that green tree as one of the supreme symbols from the soul, for the soul. And that later became your Christmas tree, which just represented our regenerative powers and the eternal powers and the eternal cognition and state of the soul. So again, this has been our Chief Speaks. I want to thank you all for listening. We're dealing with the science of living an Anu life. And I encourage you all, those of you who have not made it over to the anulifeglobal.org site, to head over there. ANULIFEGLOBAL.org. I never shout out that site. I never really talk about it much. I gotta stop doing that. But lately, as you know, I've been sharing it more, sharing the website. And I try to put it in the videos too, so we have it. But for those of you who are interested in becoming members of Anu and learning with us and joining our barbaric spiritual chaos, please do. Please sign up. There's a link that says join. Just fill out the form and come on through. Anu is not a religion. It's an escape from religion. Religion is the binding back to the source. And what you're binding yourself back to is the same individual that separated you into being an individual. So through our chaos, we find unity. And in that unity of chaos, we find creative sources. We find creative power. And through that creative power, we're able to explode back up through the 7 realms and get back to where we were before, but more evolved, more powerful, and definitely wiser, which is the key, which is the point here. So I urge you all to go to that site. If you're not a member of our new spiritual training, definitely sign up. You can go to saduluhouse.com for that. If you want to learn with me and you want to learn with my students, SADULUHOUSE.com, saduluhouse.com. And we have other classes there as well. The crystals class is up. I believe the chakra class is up, and just about every strong we're putting up a new one. So some of those older webinars that we did and stuff, we've added on to them, increased the handouts, added different components and things, so that way we could really flesh them out nicely, and we've converted those into classes. So I urge you to definitely go and check that out. And a quick shout out, we got a new show coming up with Sister Kim during the weekdays. I know I'm not doing a live call-ins right now on Sundays, and it doesn't mean that any of you are any less a part of what we're doing. Those of you who have been consistent in your gathering and in your calling in. But we're starting a new segment, we talked about it, to just allow a relaxed space for people to build and to commune. I know it's very important, it's very important for us to get together. It's very important for us to talk. And a lot of times just get things, off of your mind, get things that are spilling out of your heart, get them out. And I've always been a stickler for that, because I feel that when you don't do that, it can be very dangerous for a person. You got to let people express themselves. It's extremely important. So we're starting a new experience where that will be happening. The name of the show is Community on Tuesdays and Thursdays between 1 and 3 p.m. Eastern. All right, so I urge you all, just call in, and of course, remember, the last Sunday of the month, we always do the call-in segments with students, and anyone can call in, and we definitely urge our new students to call in during that time and to just share your experiences and, your triumphs. And I'm cool with the failures, too. Don't be so embarrassed. I always tell you guys that it's a journey, man. You're going to trip and you're going to stumble. You might be on a part of your journey where you're falling down the steps, but if you're falling down the steps, you're falling from your glory, So that glory is still alive in you. Just because the ruler goes amongst the people doesn't make them any less ruler. Just because the soul goes amongst the body doesn't make it any less soul. Just because the soul exits out of the mouth of Olodumare doesn't make it any less Olodumare. Just because Olodumare exits out of the womb of his mother doesn't make him any less his mother. There's an eternal connection that we all have to the higher greatness, no matter what state we're in. And that's why we always have to be cognizant of what we're doing at all times, realizing that you're taking with you the higher consciousness and the greatest intelligences of the universes right along with you. Okay? So, in any case, thank you all for tuning in. I want you all to enjoy your day today. And thank you all for the love, man. Let me pause for a second before I say peace. I've been getting a lot of really nice emails, and the comments on the video, those are the ones I see first. I urge you all, definitely, especially like if you enjoyed the classes and stuff we do, comment, but I just want to say a side note, people have really been gratuitous, with sharing of just their feedback and, how this work has affected them and, how long they've been listening and what it's done. And that's awesome. I just want to say thank you for all of you who have taken the time out of your day to share that. It's important. It's important for my staff. When they see that, they feel good. Because they always say, I don't know if anybody's out there, and they're out there. Because even though people may buy the classes or you see the views on Blog Talk and stuff, without the feedback, you really don't know what people are doing. And, so I just want to thank you all because, not everybody's a reviewer. Not everyone's a feedbacker. So when you actually say, well, yeah, normally I don't leave feedback or whatever, but I'm going to pause for a moment and type up a comment on this YouTube video, especially those of you who've been consistent with it. I just want to say thank you. I read them. I read them all. Some of them never make the light of day. You know, the spam ones are the ones that some of them are just, sometimes people say ignorant things. I mean, I don't mind negative feedback. I really don't care anything about that. And sometimes people say, stupid, disrespectful things that don't need to be promoted. But I just want to say thank you, man. Thank you guys for, and don't latch on to the negative feedback thing. As soon as it came out of my mouth, I thought about it. Yeah, there's going to be about 5 people say, yeah, well, you say you don't mind negative feedback. So, why you don't get it? Watch yourself. Watch yourself. Okay? I know how some of you get down, man. You look for 1 or 2 things that you can latch on and then start acting stupid about it. And I'm not having it. But I want to thank all of the other ones, who have definitely taken out time to not only listen, but also to share, And I always urge you with these videos, please share them. If you like them, share them. That's the greatest thing you could do. Share them. Hit the like button. Subscribe to our new channels, all of them. It's just a little click. It's just a click of a button. Hit like on the Facebook channels too, Follow those as well, because we got some cool changes coming up. I've been in meetings for the past 2-3 days, time zone meetings. So those ones where what time is gonna be over there for you? 1 a.m. on my side. All right, I'll set my alarm. So I've been in those for days now, past 3 days or so, and have some more coming up later today. So I'm really, really cooking up some good things for you all, and that's one of the reasons why I'm also urging you to, go to the I New Life Global Ministry site, and for those of you who want to contribute in any way, and it's not always about money. You guys know you've been following me for years. For those of you who've been following, I just started even talking about the products, the books and the stores and stuff. That's not really my thing so much. Not that not making money is my thing. It definitely is. But mixing them. When I'm teaching, I just want to teach. I don't want to think about anything else. But there's other ways to contribute, man. If you have different talents and things like that, come and be a part of what we're doing. It's just good. Collaborative efforts are good, and it's good for your self-esteem. When you're contributing to something that you actually appreciate and you actually value, it's good for your self-esteem. And writing a check is awesome, because it helps us to support the other things we're doing in the African Initiative Project, and to do more things over there that I've been doing back and forth. And some of, even as of late, some of the students have traveled over there to the land and the works that we've been developing over there. But even beyond that, man, just, I don't know, maybe you got a talent for something. Maybe you could sing, maybe you can edit videos or whatever, I'm always about the family vibe, so the collaborative efforts are good. But anyway, I've been talking longer than I want to. So with that, I will see you next strong. If it's not the last, I think we got one more before the last Sunday of the month. And be well, everyone. Be safe, be strong, and be powerful. This is Chief Yuya signing out from our New Life Global Ministry.
So self-actualization is actualizing the mission and idea of the soul. In order for new life to come, the old life has to rock. We realize the self is actually that higher entity, that which controls life. You're supposed to birth yourself into these realities and then kill yourself out of those realities. That's the only escape from a matrix. It's that everything here is dying. Everything here is corrupted. Everything, even your beautiful sunset, is a corruption of the real sun. What is your body to your soul? A vehicle of travel. What are the things that you do that are not for money? So we speak about the independent phenomenon of self-actualization. No rules. I'm going to do what I need to do, but I'm also going to show you the depth of my power.
Welcome.
Anu Nation is home to the Anu spiritual order founded by Chief Jegna Haru Yuya Asan Anu. Some of the components of Anu Nation are A New Life Global Ministries, Enlightenment and Transformation, Sadulu House, and Osiris Life Spiritual Services. SaduluHouse.com is the school component of Anu Nation, where spiritual empowerment through education and training is emphasized. One way that is accomplished is through our monthly webinars. Our webinars are packed with foundational information, rituals, and live instruction to empower your spiritual work. At SaduluHouse.com, you can view our diverse list of topics for this year that range from meditation to sex magic. And you can also register for any of the webinars at your convenience, sign up for our introductory Orisha class, schedule a spiritual reading, and sign up for the Anu Spiritual Training course. Enlightenment and Transformation is the media component of Anu Nation. Here, you can view all of our archive shows from over the years to our current segments. They include Chief Speaks, Masterminds Monday, Anu Asafo, Thunderground Thursdays, and Foundational Fridays. You can also visit us on our YouTube channels. They are Enlightenment and Transformation, Orisha Yoruba, and Anu Nation. Osiris Life Spiritual Services is for those who are ready to take the necessary actions to bring your life into holistic balance. Here we offer consistent monthly one-on-one coaching, solutions that are tailored just for you, practical hands-on self-development techniques that will accompany your monthly readings, and customized practical strategies designed for you that guarantee positive results. Simply choose the package that best fits your needs. And last but not least, AlphaOmegaStore.com. The Alpha Omega Store is our online botanica where we offer divination tools, herbs and incense, DVDs, books, and other hard-to-find ritual items. You can also get our best-selling foundational book, Grasping the Root of Divine Power. Other great works from Anu Nation are Shrine and Altar, Solutions for Dysfunctional Family Relationships, and Natural Hair for Young Women. All great books to assist you on your journey. To find out more on how to get involved with Anu Nation, visit our websites and YouTube channels and be sure to sign up for our monthly newsletter.
Chief Yuya teaches classes on spiritual growth, personal development, and indigenous ancient spirituality. They're absolutely amazing, and they are offered online so you can access them from any location across the globe. The classes are also designed so that you can go at your own pace. So, you can register at any time and enjoy the ongoing support of our online learning community.